recognizes
the ranking member for opening statement. I yield to the ranking member for an opening statement. I yield back.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Distinguished gentlelady from California, Mary Bono. Gentlelady is recognized.
Parental recognizes
The lady from California is recognized.
I'm pleased to introduce Congresswoman Mary Bono, former U.S. Representative for California's Inland Empire and Desert Region from 1998 to 2013.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Hello and welcome to Sagely Speaking. I'm your host, Mary Bono, and I'm happy to welcome my very special guest this week, Chris Didier. Chris is a father of 3 and is originally from the Sacramento, California area. He attended the Air Force Academy and is now a retired Air Force officer and a current pilot for United Airlines. In December of 2020, Chris discovered his youngest child, Zach, in the privacy in his room, no longer alive, after Zach had consumed what he thought was a legitimate and harmless prescription pill. But Zach had unknowingly taken a fake pill made of illicit fentanyl, and he died at the age of 17 during his senior year in high school. Zach had no history of recreational drug use, nor struggles with depression or anxiety. He was a self-taught musician, a straight-A student, a multi-sport athlete, and he had the lead role in a high school musical. He was active with scouting and active in community service. And now Chris is working tirelessly in his advocacy to help bring needed awareness and education of the dangers of illicit synthetics in an effort to save lives. He serves as an executive board member for Victims of Illicit Drugs. Chris, welcome to Sagely Speaking. I'm so glad that you're here. Our paths have crossed a lot, certainly over the last year. It's been a pleasure to know you, but I wanted our audience to get to know you too and get to know about your work. So can you tell us Zach's story? I just did a great little intro of who Zach was on paper, but give us some color. Who is Zach, your son?
Well, thank you, Mary, for having me here today. I am really grateful for the opportunity to be on your program. I've been following every single podcast that you've done since Matt Capilouto. I'm impressed with your Herculean efforts to bring needed awareness about this evolving crisis. And I really have, I'm impressed with the experts that you've brought on. And so I'm humbled to be here. So thank you for that. Got to start with that.
Thank you. I love compliments. So thank you for starting off with that. I appreciate it very much. You made me feel good. So back to Zach.
Yeah, you bet. Well, so Zach is an amazing soul. He is a young man who I think loved to inspire his friends and family and those he cared about. And he is a kid who was always very curious and interested in knowing how to improve himself, how to be at his best. And I think he liked to transition that to helping these others. But the story with Zach is he's really successful in all aspects of academia and athletics, community service, and especially music. He learned to play 4 musical instruments all on his own. He was a straight-A student with no exceptions, very active in his scouting and a respected multi-sport athlete. His favorite sports he was involved in was soccer and track and field, specifically hurdles. Zach was nearing the completion of his Eagle rank and also played the lead role in his high school musical production called High School Musical. So if you saw the movie with Zac Efron, my son Zach played the same role of Troy Bolton. And it was an enormous success. So Zach was just a high caliber kid, very successful, kind of at the top of his game at every chapter of his academic life. But I think of all these accomplishments he's made and these attributes, I find that the ones I treasure the most is his propensity to help his friends. And I saw that repeatedly. I coached his soccer team for 6 years. And countless times after practice, he would do speed work to help his track friends improve their times. He would challenge his friends to improve their SAT scores and get more involved with community service. He really liked mentoring younger scouts and went to every summer program, and he was very eager to finish his Eagle project. He loved family, friends, and life. He was truly charismatic soul to everyone. I like to call it a bright light in our world that really any family would enjoy to have.
He sounds truly extraordinary. And I know that you're carrying on and helping his friends. How many schools have you visited in your work?
Oh, gosh. I have to look back. I think I'm approaching 100 assemblies, and most of them, I want to say we average about two assemblies per school, because you can only crowd about 1,000 students in the gym, and a lot of high schools are around 2,000. So about 50 schools, probably more like 60. We have a number of one assemblies, so quite a lot. This tragedy that happened with Zach is something we didn't expect. We never saw coming. Kind of felt like a Mack truck came out of nowhere going 100 miles an hour. We never saw coming. And we've learned a considerable amount. We believe that adversity is a horrible thing to waste, as Charlie Plum, a prisoner of war of almost 7 years from Vietnam, said. And I truly believe that there's so much to learn, and there's an opportunity to help bring awareness and education, ring the alarm, and save lives. And so we want to, Zach's mom and I, and so many other grieving families want to bring out this danger, so that everyone understands it.
Chris, what are you saying to the students, and what's resonating? What are they picking up on and leaving that gymnasium with? What sort of messaging are they taking out?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. Thank you for that, Mary. I really like to share about what happened how Zach lived, like I just did, before I talk about how he died. And then I think doing that helps make him relatable to the audience. And then I hit them with the science that we've learned and the facts that we're about to talk about. But my takeaway from them is to say, guys, I absolutely know there are people in this room, in this gym or auditorium, that are hurting. There are people who are struggling with the challenges of performing in the classroom or on the athletic field, who are struggling with mental health, with depression or anxiety, and it's okay to not be okay. Life is hard, especially after the effects of COVID lockdowns. And with regard to the illicit fentanyl crisis, your generation did not start this problem, but I really believe you have the biggest influence to change it, because you're the most connected of any previous generation. You have the ability to learn about what's actually happening, what the dangers are, the deception behind the dangers, and share this information. So I urge you to share it with your friends, your classmates, your teammates, your castmates, your scoutmates, your brothers and sisters, boyfriends and girlfriends, and use social media for that. I mean, I kind of think I know a lot how to work Facegram and Instabook or whatever they're called, but your generation is way more savvy on that. So use that. I also really want to tell them that prescriptions do not come from the street or social media or a friend. They come from a doctor with medicine on a bottle that looks like this. I show them one of these with your name on it. And now I'm using the expression fax, no printer. If you haven't heard about it, that's the new slang teens use now. I just learned it 2 weeks ago on the Today Show, which means that's irrefutable, absolute fact and truth. Prescriptions only come from a pharmacy with your name on it. But then to learn and talk about this, and I really try to motivate them to say, guys, even one kid in here can make a difference. One person has the power to influence multiple generations, and our country has seen it. We have had one George Washington, one Abraham Lincoln, one Mandela, one King, or even one little girl from Pakistan named Malala had made a difference. And I point to them and say, you can make a difference, because each choice, each day, each person matters. And so share this information and protect each other.
That is so powerful. And it gives people hope right now in a time where sometimes it doesn't feel there is any hope, but you're empowering them, inspiring them to pick up the mantle and help each other. I love what you said. The messaging, you didn't start it, but you can change it to the generation that you're speaking to is fantastic. How about when you talk to parents? There's a huge difference here, I would
Yeah.
assume. What's your messaging for parents?
So thanks again for that question. I really like to give the takeaway, and we do this a lot when we speak at parent info nights, community call to action town halls, and to say, guys, here's a story of Zach, and not to distance ourselves from someone who may have struggled with depression or anxiety or had been struggling with recreational drug use. I think those are equal tragedies. What happened to our son, and sadly, what's happened to thousands of other families, is more of an acute story where it's a one off. Hey, my kid thought he was getting harmless medicine to help him with something, not realizing he was getting a fake bill. So if you're thinking in that audience that, hey, I'm sorry that's happened to your family, but not my family, not my kid, I urge you to think again, because our kids are exposed to it, and they really are trying to use social media and their cell phones as a way to find solutions. And you have to put yourself in their view, in their lens. When we were their age, prescription pills were not nearly as common as they are now. Prescription pills back then were really only for grandparents and people who are dealing with surgery or recovery from surgery. But now, many of our kids, our teens, have they themselves been prescribed a prescription from a doctor, or they've witnessed their cousins or siblings or friends at school. Even our pets have prescriptions. So in their world, they grew up with a society normalized with prescription pills too. So to them, it's like, well, everyone has it. It's always been around. Prescriptions is that safe path to take, not realizing that this is something that's not been around forever. It's just kind of new. And now prescription pills are taking the form of what looks real, but are actually fake and counterfeit, and are not what you think they are. They're actually fatal. So we need to have a point to sit down and talk with our kids. Blocking our children from social media might be a temporary solution, but about 95% of children, according to a Penn study, a Pew study in 2022, 95% of teens have a cell phone. 94% admit that they are active on social media, either constantly or multiple times a day, teens being the ages of 13 to 47. So if a kid doesn't have a cell phone, their friends sitting in the classroom next to them, or in the courtyard or in the playground or wherever, they're exposed to social media that way, or through their Chromebook at school or any other way. If you're thinking parent control apps and geotagging and tracking your kids is a good way, well, that could be a great start too. But all you have to do is go to YouTube and learn how to spoof your geolocation. It'll teach our teens, hey, you could tell your parents I'm staying the night at my friend's house, but actually be somewhere else, or how to break through, different parent control apps. So our kids have access to ways to get around, parent control restrictions. We really need to sit down and have an honest conversation with our kids. And the best way, I think, is to just say, guys, I just learned about what's changed, that the landscape is different. This is not the same as it was when I was your age, and I'm worried. Have you heard about these dangers? Are you aware of it? Are you concerned? What are your thoughts? What do you think we should do? Because I think when the children feel empowered and that they're being heard, I think you can have an above board conversation with them.
Absolutely. I was talking to a gentleman not too long ago, and he was mentioning his kids, and I asked if he had had the talk with them about drugs, and he was acting as if it's a difficult conversation to have, to talk to your kids about the dangers of drugs. And I don't know if that's the stigma that exists around it, or you believe your child is, healthy and not using, and maybe this is encouraging them to use. I think there's some reluctance with some parents to have the conversation. And that reminds me of, my youth, where it was drug addiction, drug use was different, as you've said, than it is today, where one pill handed off from a friend and it looks so perfect and it's deadly. It is such a different problem now than just the disease of addiction. And of course, now there's this new category of victim. So these fentanyl deaths are not overdose deaths necessarily. There are some, of course. We'll continue our conversation with our guest in just a moment, but I'd like to take this time to thank my sponsors. Tamarack Resort in Idaho, America's only ski, golf, and lake resort. Escape the ordinary and embrace adventure at the breathtaking Tamarack Resort, nestled in the heart of Idaho. Whether you crave the rush of skiing down pristine slopes, shredding the trails on a mountain bike, perfecting your swing on their scenic golf course, or diving into thrilling lake activities, Tamarack has it all. Experience the ultimate outdoor getaway with endless opportunities for excitement and relaxation. Book your stay now and discover the wonders of this magnificent resort. Visit tamarackidaho.com. We'll continue our conversation with our guest in just a moment, but I'd like to take some time to thank my sponsors. Tamarack Resort in Idaho, America's only ski, golf, and lake resort. Escape the ordinary and embrace adventure at the breathtaking Tamarack Resort, nestled in the heart of Idaho. Whether you crave the rush of skiing down pristine slopes, shredding the trails on a mountain bike, perfecting your swing on our scenic golf course, or diving into thrilling lake activities, Tamarack has it all. Experience the ultimate outdoor getaway with endless opportunities for excitement and relaxation. Book your stay now and discover the wonders of this magnificent resort. Visit tamarackidaho.com. Mothers Against Prescription Drug Abuse, driving solutions to prevent drug abuse and overdose deaths by focusing on prevention through education and awareness. Map to Action, dedicated to promoting smart policies that keep our communities safe and healthy. All of our sponsors can be found on our website at sagelyspeaking.com. And now, back to the show. Talk to me, please, about the difference of the victim of fentanyl.
Sure. Well, let me go ahead and before I explain that, I'm going to take a minute on actually what happened to Zach. So what happened to him is this occurred roughly 3 years and 5 months ago yesterday. And what happened was it was at the end of COVID lockdown restrictions. And the first public place where people were to gather and socialize was our mall. It's considered the second largest mall in Northern California. It's called the Galleria Mall, and anyone who lives anywhere near Sacramento Metroplex have heard of it. It's where everyone likes to shop for Christmas. And when it was announced that the mall was opening up, Zach was really excited. And I kind of questioned it because Zach wasn't really a mall kind of kid, but he said, "Dad, this is our chance to hang out. We've been sequestered to our rooms and not able to hang out and socialize. Most of their socializing was done online, mostly through a game called Minecraft, which I thought was cool because it was creative, bringing out creativity, and you can talk and interact with your friends. But this is now a chance for us to just be together in person. We're about to graduate high school, and we didn't expect to live our senior year of high school this way, but now we can." And the mall was filled with middle school, high school, and community college young people. What none of us expected, of course, Zach and his friends, and I hadn't expected it, was that the mall was also filled with young people, young being in their early 20s, who were there to peddle poison for profit. And what they were doing was advertising through social media on products that they were selling to people who were under the age of 21 because they don't have the license to buy liquor or drugs. And that's what happened. Zach was with his friends. They were approached by a dealer through Snapchat. This dealer exploited the use of geotagging, the quick ad feature, and his Snap Score feature to make a connection. It was all caught on surveillance video at the mall on the second floor right outside of Macy's. The interaction lasted about a minute to a minute and a half. And the conversation that I understand that took place was, "Hey guys, did you see my ad? I've got products. It's all tested. It's legit. It's safe. I've got you. Are you interested in the heavy stuff?" And the kid said no. And he said, "You guys look like you could... you work out a lot. You like to work out and exercise," which Zach and his buddies were very athletic. And he said, here's an alternative to like creatine. You can take this thing called Percocet. And I asked, what's that? And he said, well, that's medication that doctors give for mild to moderate pain. An example is what a dentist gives for when you prepare for braces. But the idea is you take that, it gets in your system for a couple days, and when you work out, you don't feel the pain. So you can do more pull-ups, push-ups, or weights or whatnot, get bigger muscles. So what do you think a high school 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old boy is going to think? Well, okay, get bigger muscles, makes it easier. Let me try it. And that's what they did. They bought a Percocet pill. And Zach and his friends thought they were getting something that they would have gotten from a dentist, thinking this might be a unique alternative on getting, a better workout. But what ended up happening is Zach came home. It was Saturday, December 26th. He went to the mall, then he went to have dinner with his girlfriend and her family, and he came home early before curfew. And then we watched a movie, and he went to bed. Then the next day, he didn't come downstairs. I went to check on him, and that's when our world was destroyed. I found my son appearing to be asleep at his desk, but when I approached him, I felt a void I'd never experienced before. And I knew something was horribly wrong. I alerted my other son, Sam, who was a senior at UC Davis, who was nearing completion of his ROTC requirements to earn a commission, and he could tell something was horribly wrong. I asked him to call 911. And he did. He ran up the stairs wanting to help and be a hero. And I will never forget the shock on Sam's face when he saw his younger brother lifeless. And I'm sure is, seeing his dad doing CPR, wondering what the hell's going on here. I honestly, in my 26-year involvement in the military, Mary, I never really honestly felt I could actually give CPR to a soldier on a battlefield, yet alone to my son in his bedroom. That's what happened. And of course, MedTech showed up and firemen, and we tried our best. I lost temporal awareness, but I think around a half hour later, a decision was made. Coroners came. I think I had around 25 people in the house. And they examined Zach's body and his room for 2.5 hours. And after a while, they sat Laura, Zach's mom, and I down and asked, has Zach had any health or drug history? And I said no to both. And they said, well, it's probably an undetected health issue. We found no drugs, no paraphernalia. If he's had no history, there's no clues, no residue, no Ziploc bags or anything that indicates drug use. No markings. So unless it's fentanyl. And I asked, what do you mean by fentanyl? And they said, well, we're seeing mysterious deaths like this recently. And Laura asked, isn't that medication for pain? And they said, well, actually, yeah, it's the most powerful of all Schedule II opioids. In fact, it's the only Schedule II opioid that is measured in micrograms. All the others are milligrams. And that's 1,000 magnitude difference. That's like comparing a 1-pound parrot to a 1,000-pound grizzly bear. And I asked, how on earth would that be even in my home, yet alone my child's body? And they said, we're just in the last 2 weeks getting toxicology reports showing these mysterious deaths involve fentanyl, and we think it's in the form of a fake pill. And we just didn't know about this. We had, at the time, never heard of such a danger. And I didn't realize social media was, the accessibility of these products could be so easily attained through social media. So going back to the new category of victim, this isn't a story of an addiction where someone like my son got involved in medication from a doctor, or tried to take marijuana, or struggled with something for months or years and then decided to get something bigger or more powerful. This was just a one off thing. He thought he was taking actual Percocet to get a good workout, and it was a fake pill. And unfortunately, I am hearing countless stories similar to this, or other innocent stories that are equal tragedies of people who are taking what they think is a safe amount of recreational drugs, to include cocaine or marijuana that they've taken many times in the past, and not realize fentanyl was placed in that product and that killed them. So a new category of victim is someone who's taking something they don't realize is lethal.
Thank you for sharing that story. I know it's incredibly painful for you to go through it. Did they catch the dealer, or I don't know how many levels of dealers there are in that transaction, but did they catch the guy who sold
Yeah.
Zach the pill?
Yeah, so that's a great story. Yes, they did. He's serving 17 years in prison. He's 21 years old. Unfortunately, he was arrested about 6 months before for a variety of drug and weapons crimes, and was convicted and sentenced to 5 years probation in October of 2020. And because of COVID lockdown and halftime rules, he didn't serve a single day of jail time. They just said, hey, you got 5 years probation, behave, and do good things. 2 months later, he met Zach. And Zach was very tight with his girlfriend, Sydney. They had a beautiful relationship. That it was something that I really believe made him happy. And so and they talked every day, every night, without fail. And I knew I had to get the word out to Sydney's family. They're a really good family. And I called them, and they were absolutely destroyed. The next day, Sydney and her family, she wanted to go to the house, to my house, and be in Zach's room, because they've watched movies together there. They have a lot of memories together in his room. And she laid in his bed for about 4.5 hours, because she's only 15 or 16 years old. She couldn't understand how could her boyfriend die, and she didn't want to let him go. And she felt she could be close to him in his room and still smell him. And when I was checking on her, it was a gut-wrenching scene to see a young girl suffer like this. But I asked her, do you know what happened? Had he talked about his heart hurting, or had he been involved in drugs, or what's going on? And she said, no, neither. But, we shared the same passcode on our phones. And that was a huge break for us. So once I verified it, I put it in airplane mode. I turned it off and plugged it in. And the DA sent an investigator the next day. Kind of freaked me out because, as you can understand, those first few days, our house was full of family and friends. And I basically had a house that literally turned overnight into a florist shop, a deli shop. I had more food and flowers and gifts from friends and family and strangers, parents of other friends of Zach's, and neighbors constantly coming and going. And I see this guy walking up to the front door who wore a Budweiser truck driving shirt, one of those pinstripe shirts, and ripped up jeans and Converse shoes. And he had a beard like out to here, like 6-inch beard. You could put a bird nest in his beard, and a big mullet and a baseball cap. And his name tag said Hank. And I'm like, who is this guy? What's this guy all about? And I went outside the house to kind of, intercept him. And he said, I'm here to see Chris Didier. And I said, well, Hank, I'm Chris. What can I do for you? And he realized, oh, shoot, I'm sorry. I'm actually not Hank. I'm the investigator. I'll keep his name confidential. I'm undercover. I just got off a shift, and here's my credentials. I understand you have a cell phone, and so I knew he came from our DA's office, and he took Zach's phone, turned it on, and it took him 90 seconds to find the dealer. And the dealer had just messaged Zach. So he said, I have a live fish with this. I need to keep it. So I signed the paperwork to surrender the phone. They used it to create a sting operation, which led to an arrest. And there's a lot more to that story, but it took about a year and a half, if I remember correctly, till we finally had a sentencing hearing. And like I said, he's serving 17 years.
Not enough, of course. You live in a county in
Yeah.
California, though, that has a terrific DA, I believe, and
Yes.
is understands this issue and seriously prosecutes bad guys,
Yeah.
dealers.
Yeah.
So I know you're
Absolutely.
thankful for that. We did meet on the work on this ballot initiative that's ongoing in California, the Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Retail Theft Reduction Act, which you're a
Yes.
big part of. And
Yeah.
again, I think the story of this investigator coming from the DA's office, it plays into this ballot initiative because it's what we need more of. And the fact that
Right.
Californians have to go to a ballot initiative to get justice, let alone clean up the problems in California, like the retail theft problem, the homelessness, and all of these issues created by Prop 47. So how is the ballot initiative going? Are you still engaged on that?
Well, on this one, other family members like Matt Capilouto and several others, Sam Chapman, and there's too many to count to name actually. We are in constant contact with that committee, and we've offered our support. We expect that, and we've done some outreach with them. I think the best piece is the education piece to the voters once it does get on the ballot. I was a guest on a talk show with our DA about it when we went out to collect signatures to place this on a ballot back in, I want to say, early March, where we had a big long car line of drive up type of thing to have signatures. It was a huge event. And I expect that we'll be talking more at other fundraising events and commercials and ads revolving around the need to bring accountability to those who are exploiting social media for profit.
Right. It's astounding, though, that it takes a Herculean effort, like a ballot initiative, to fix what's clearly broken, that the state legislature in California cannot see their way to pass meaningful legislation that addresses this. But look, that's sort of the story of the country. Everybody's way behind the 8 ball on this. Tell me a little bit. You have something you call the chocolate chip cookie effect.
Yeah.
What is your chocolate chip cookie effect?
Thank you for that. This is related to fentanyl itself, and I'm sure many of your listeners, Mary, I'm not sure if you are a fan of chocolate chip cookies. I certainly am. And if you make a plate of chocolate chip cookies, no two cookies are alike. You can take one chocolate chip cookie, break it in half, and that half you take may have one chocolate chip in it, or it may have most all of the chocolate chips, because those batches are unevenly made. There really isn't what the industry is called content uniformity. And prescription pills that are fake, that have fentanyl in them, are like chocolate chip cookies. They're inconsistent. And so if a person is selling a pill in a baggie and pulls that pill out of a bag and tests it with a fentanyl test strip, and they break it in half or maybe even crush the entire pill and say, hey, there's no fentanyl in this pill, so this whole bag is safe, that's a false statement. That is absolutely incorrect, because testing one pill does not mean all the other pills are exactly the same. It's not. If you test half a pill, that doesn't mean the other half has the same amount of fentanyl. So like a chocolate chip cookie, it's inconsistent. That's the big picture. So if anyone hands you a pill saying, hey, this has been tested, that is false. It has not been tested, period. So going into the discussion about fentanyl test strips, personally, I think I'd save you $1 by saying if that pill came anywhere other than a pharmacy, it's got fentanyl in it. It's just a matter if it's a lethal amount or not. And are you willing to risk your life to know if it's lethal or not? So don't trust that, hey, this pill is safe unless you know it came from a pharmacy with your name on it.
Thank you for that. I hadn't thought of the chocolate chip cookie effect, but
Yeah.
I think that's very effective.
Okay.
For sure. I would, of course, go for the chocolate chip cookie with the most amount of chocolate chips in it to begin with, but that has nothing to do
Yeah,
with your
me too.
analogy. But it's a very good one. So I think before I lose you, I know that you have the belief, as I do, in the importance of awareness and education, prevention and treatment, and accountability. And we've spoken a bit about each of those. But can you tell people how to find you if they have a school where they want to see if you're available to come speak to their kids, or how can people find you?
Well, they can find me by going to the Victims of Illicit Drugs website. It's stopthevoid.org, all one word. And you'll find all of the board members and our bios and our contact information. Or you can just reach me directly at my Void email, which is chrisjohn@stopthevoid.org.
Well, I hope a lot of people reach out to you and get you to their schools when you're not flying. For United Airlines, which, by the way, is my airline of choice for the most part, you have some pretty cool routes. I'm jealous. You were flying. You just came back from New Zealand last night.
Yeah.
Yesterday
morning. Yeah.
Yesterday morning from New Zealand.
I'm really grateful for my workplace. I've got great crew. They're awesome, and I really feel United does their best to try to take care of us, and it's nice. It's like a paid vacation.
Well, do you need people to carry your bags sometime? I know Kim and John and I'll offer.
You're welcome to join anytime. You don't have to carry my bags.
Well, look, I am so proud of you, and I marvel at your strength and the ability to pick yourself up and do what you do time and time again to make a difference for so many other, I would say, kids, but it's not. We just got the news earlier today about a 60-year-old, who passed with fentanyl in his system. So it's not only kids, and it's to ring the alarm bell and raise this issue to the greatest ability we can. It's multifaceted. Anything you do, I'm here to help. We're here to help you, as you know. And I just want to thank you so much for joining us on Sagely Speaking. Did I forget to ask anything that you just feel you want to share before we sign off?
I do have a couple topics, but it's up to you. One is terminology, and we talked about this when we were doing the Stop Fentanyl Dealer. The different terms that can be confusing. The other one is the role of social media. I'm really excited to hear about Catherine McMorris-Rogers on your show. I'm telling you, Mary, if there's one thing I could really make a difference on, if I was a king for a day, I would basically do what it takes to update Section 230C. I'm sure you know about the Sunset initiative that the House Energy and Commerce Committee had proposed in that discussion last week. There's a lot to unpack with updating Section 230. And then the third thing is the Harm Reduction Coalition. I call it the Harm Reduction Coalition Factor. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there is a growing resistance to families like mine and the Capiloutos and others who are asking to hold drug dealers accountable. And it's coming from DPA and Harm Reduction and other nonprofits like, I think it's called Broken No More. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I am aware of them.
Okay.
And also of this issue. And look, I believe summer harm reduction is fantastic.
I do too.
The pendulum in policy and politics always matters, that it doesn't swing too far one way or the other. But in my heart, I'm a preventionist. In my heart, that's the work that I can do the best. I do believe in naloxone, deploying naloxone, having naloxone on hand everywhere, that students in school should be able to carry it. But as far as the rest of harm reduction, that's somebody else's bag. And I do believe there are ethical questions. And at the end, the facts and the numbers will prove how effective it is in saving lives.
Yeah.
But I am sorry that you feel that they push back against you and your family and others who are doing this work. That's uncalled for. We can all, there's room for everybody as long as we don't, again, have that pendulum swing too far.
I agree. I think the tools like naloxone are incredibly important, like a defibrillator or a fire extinguisher. But the space about legalize all drugs, let's meet them where they're at. I definitely think we need to meet them where they're at for treatment, but to offer a safe place to allow them to continue with their addiction, it goes against what my understanding and the principle of helping someone get out of their addiction, and giving into that addiction is usually like a principal tenet. You don't do that. And as far as I know, I don't think there's a Alcoholics Anonymous where they have their first meeting at a open bar and say, all right, let's get drunk here. That's not how it works. At some point, you have to, a person has to make a decision. I have to stop this. I need to be guided to stopping this, and allowing them to continue it isn't, I don't see how that's the healthiest path, medically speaking. So I definitely believe in tools and meeting people where they're at and meeting them with dignity and respect. As far as legislation goes, the opposition points of anything holding people or businesses accountable, I can understand the struggles of the problem of what may have been considered the over incarceration or unfair incarcerations of many people, especially minority groups back in the 80s and 90s, who were overly incarcerated for cocaine or crack cocaine possession and use. I get that. But how we should have managed the drug problem of the past should not dictate how we need to manage the drug problems of the present, or how we need to evolve to manage the drug problems of the future. Because the illicit synthetics that are on the horizon are up to 150 times stronger than fentanyl, or 7,500 times stronger than heroin. So we have to have a different outlook on how do we manage this when people are intentionally and willingly peddling this product for profit. It's killing people at unprecedented rates. We need to up our game with the accountability space.
We do. We certainly do. And again, in public policy, in politics, things change, they evolve. We can never stay the same necessarily. Obviously, we can to the basic, Bill of Rights, and if we want to get down to the nitty-gritty. But with something like this, of course, the nature of this crime has changed. It's no longer your street-level dealer. It is now transnational criminal organizations. It is very serious bad guys who are making billions off of selling drugs on the street to our children. And when I think about this gentleman, I can't even call him that, this heinous person who met Zach and told him a horrible lie that ended up killing him, you have to hold that person accountable. And in any event, so I want to thank you, Chris, very much. You are a powerful force, and I'm sorry for your loss. And I know that our listeners have heard something in your story, hopefully that will resonate about communicating with their kids, communicating with other parents. There's a lot to do. Thank you for sharing how to find you. Again, I hope people take advantage of you and get you in their schools and their assemblies. But I just want to thank you very much, Chris, for spending your time today with me on Sagely Speaking. And I know we'll be keeping in touch.
Thank you for having me, Mary, and keep up the good work you're doing.
Thank you. We'll do it together, and it's a labor of love. But I want to thank you for listening, and thank you again to all of our sponsors, Tamarack Resort in Idaho, Mothers Against Prescription Drug Abuse, and Map to Action. Please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or comments, I would love to hear from you. I can be reached at hello@sagelyspeaking.com. Until next time, be well.